In the future, cities will become deserts, roads will become battlefields, and the hope of mankind will appear as a stranger. Hey there, welcome back to another review, this time of Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. Mad Max 2, aka The Road Warrior, is directed by George Miller, features a screenplay by Terry Hayes, Brian Hannant, and George Miller. It stars Mel Gibson as Mad Max, Bruce Spence as the Gyro Captain, Emil Minty as the Feral Kid, Michael Preston as Papagallo, Virginia Hay as the Warrior Woman, Kjell Nilsson as Lord Humongous, Vernon Wells as Wes, Max Phipps as the Toady, Archie Whiteley as the Captain's Girl, Moira Clout as Big Rebecca, and David Downer as Nathan. Following the release of Mad Max, director George Miller received a number of offers from Hollywood, including one to direct First Blood. However, Miller instead decided to pursue a rock and roll movie under the working title of Roxanne. This particular film was in no way related to the actual film called Roxanne that came out years later starring Steve Martin. After working with writer Terry Hayes on the novelization of Mad Max, Miller and Hayes then teamed up to write Roxanne in Los Angeles, but the script was ultimately shelved. Miller then became more intrigued with the idea of returning to the world of Mad Max, as a larger budget would allow him to be more ambitious. "Making Mad Max was a very unhappy experience for me," said Miller. "There was a strong pressure to make a sequel, and I felt we could do a better job with the second movie." Principal photography took place over the course of 12 weeks in the winter of 1981 near Broken Hill. Scenes were shot at the Pinnacles where the set of the compound was situated. Additionally, the famous scene where the Interceptor rolls over and is destroyed in a fireball was shot on the Mendy Road on the Mundy Plains just outside of Broken Hill. Most of the final action sequences, including Papagallo's death by Trident Machete, Wes's final attempt to kill the Feral Kid, then the collision between Mad Max's truck and Humongous's hot rod, were filmed on July 24, 1981. The collision caused more damage to the truck than expected, so the truck's turnover, scheduled for the same day, had to be postponed. The truck was then repaired and then crashed the following day. According to cinematographer Dean Semler, the camera rig used to get medium close-ups of Max driving required him in an AC to stand on a small platform mounted to the driver's side of the car. They found out during one sequence that they had miscalculated the lift because whenever they went up or down a hill, the platform would actually scrape the ground, sending out a shower of sparks. Initially alarming all involved, they just shrugged and kept shooting without cutting. One of the more spectacular stunts in the film was actually a serious accident. One of the motorcycle riding raiders hits a car, flies off the bike, smashes his legs against the car, and cartwheels through the air towards the camera. This was a real, genuine accident. The stuntman was supposed to just fly over the car without hitting it. But the near-fatal accident looked so dramatic that it was kept in the movie. The stuntman broke his leg badly, but he survived. The tanker roll stunt at the end of the chase was deemed so dangerous that the stunt driver was not allowed to eat any food 12 hours before they shot, in the likely event that he could be rushed into surgery. Contributing to the cost of production was the most expensive set ever constructed for an Australian film: the desert compound built in the desert of Broken Hill, New South Wales. The production also boasted the largest explosion ever created for an Australian film, which destroyed that very set. When Mad Max was first released in 1980 in the United States, it did not receive a proper release from its distributor, American International Pictures. AIP was in the final stages of a change of ownership after being bought by Filmways Incorporated a year earlier. AIP's then current problems affected the release of the film and its box office in the United States, although Mad Max proved much more successful when released internationally. Warner Bros. Decided to release Mad Max 2 in the United States, but they recognized that the first film was not popular in North America. Although the original Mad Max was becoming popular through cable channel showings, Warner Brothers decided to change the name of its sequel to The Road Warrior. The advertising for the film, including print ads, trailers, and TV commercials, did not refer to the Max character at all, and shied away from the fact that the film was a sequel. Despite of this, the film was a commercial success, earning $3.7 million in rentals in Australia, and as The Road Warrior in North America, it was a greater success. The film earned $11.3 million in rentals and $23.6 million in box office grosses. Vestron on Video capitalized by releasing Mad Max on video and subtitling it the thrilling predecessor to The Road Warrior. Despite the title change, grosses from the US release were on par with other countries. The Road Warrior received almost unanimous rave reviews from critics upon its release in 1981. And it still is to this day considered by many critics to be one of the greatest films of its time and of its genre. It currently holds a 98% of Rotten Tomatoes. The film was so successful upon its release and afterwards that it has left a lasting legacy. Numerous fan films based upon the film have been released many years later after The Road Warrior first graced the movie screens in 1981. The film's legacy doesn't stop there, though. In the years after its release, numerous fan clubs have been created in its honor, as well as Road Warrior-themed parties and activities. The film even has its own museum. The Road Warrior Museum is located in the small town of Silverton, which is 25 kilometers from Broken Hill in New South Wales, Australia. It was established in 2010 by Adrian and Linda Bennett, who developed the museum after moving to Silverton and building a collection of Mad Max props and memorabilia. After avenging the death of his wife and young son at the hands of Toe Cutter and his gang, Max, played by Mel Gibson, drives the post-apocalyptic highways of the Australian outback, fending off attacks from nomadic tribes that prey on the outsiders. Falling into an encampment led by the relatively peaceful Papagallo, played by Mike Preston, Max at first schemes to steal their oil, but then he decides against it after he finds out that the community is being terrorized by a band of brutal motorcyclists, led by Lord Humongous, played by Kjell Nilsson, and his finest warrior Wes, played by Vernon Wells, who bid to loot all the gasoline from the refinery for themselves. The community then asks Max to help them transport the gasoline and to lead them towards freedom. Max reluctantly agrees, and Max and the rest of the community then head down the road as they're pursued by Lord Humongous and his warriors, who want the gasoline for themselves and will kill everything that is in their path to get it. But they have one big problem, and his name is Mad Max. Pros? The whole movie is one fucking pro. It's the fucking Road Warrior. Excuse my French, but I mean, this is a film that definitely does deserve the effing in front of it. It's the fucking Road Warrior. It's whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it the Road Warrior, if you want to call it Mad Max 2, regardless, this film is an action-packed, sci-fi, post-apocalyptic masterpiece. This is every bit as good of a film as the critics say it is, and it's definitely one of my favorite films of its genre, and one of my favorite films starring Mel Gibson, and I'd probably say it's, even after I see Fury Road, it's probably still going to be my favorite Mad Max film. I had a lot of fun revisiting this film. I remember enjoying it when I was younger, checking it out on TV, as well as watching it at my aunt's house, and watching it again, it just solidifies why I love this movie. This whole movie is one giant pro. But if I had to split up the movie's pros, there are definitely quite a few of them. So anyway, let's get started. George Miller, definitely another huge pro. He does another great job here directing the film. He adds that cranked up style again to some of the action sequences, which gives them even more adrenaline pumping through the shots. And I just like his style. He really has a great style when it comes to directing movies. He has his own unique style that's down and dirty, exploitation, but still has a little bit of sophistication to it. He definitely does know how to set up his shots. The cinematography by Dean Semler, he comes in, he does a great job as well. He comes in and replaces the cinematographer from the first film, who did a really good job too with the first movie, with Mad Max. But Dean Semler comes in and he does an equally great job. Sets up some really beautiful looking shots. Mel Gibson as Mad Max. It's a stone cold badass. This is the Mad Max I remember. The Mad Max in the first film, takes a little bit to get going before he starts kicking some ass. He has that moment where he gives the guy the hacksaw and tells him to start cutting. But this movie, he's a badass throughout. He's a man of few words too. Mel Gibson, this character, Mad Max, only says about 16 lines of dialogue in this film. And you would never really think about that because he's such a badass, you don't really care how many lines of dialogue he gets. But anyway, there's a lot of great moments in Mad Max. My favorite are probably the moments near the end when he's driving the truck, he's driving the Mac, and the Humongous's warriors are trying to attack him in the cab of the truck, and he just blows them away with his shotgun. And it's a moment that even the feral kid, he's right there alongside him, and he gets a front row seat to it. And Mad Max is just going boom, blows this guy away with the shotgun to the head. Then goes boom, blows the guy up who's hanging out on top of the cab of the truck, blows his ass away. And feral kid's like ah ah ah, and I'm like that too. I'm like yes, yes, yeah, ah ah ah. This action is awesome. This is so awesome, blowing people away with the shotgun. And that's exactly what I think the Mad Max lacked a little bit of that extra gunplay. Could have used a little bit more of that. Like I said, he's a man of few words, but he definitely has some memorable lines of dialogue. I'm just here for the gasoline. And then the one that I always remember, and most people remember, which is just an absolute badass line and a badass sequence. Max is just lounging around on some tires while Papagallo and his people are considering whether or not to take their tanker truck of oil and get out of there instead of leaving it to Humongous and his band of warriors. And just nonchalantly, Mel comes out with this badass line. You want to get out of here? You talk to me. And that's it. That's all he had to say. And then to make a deal, then he goes and gets the truck, and then in exchange for his V8 Interceptor to get it back. And he has some cool moments with the V8 Interceptor as well, but because I remember he blows this guy's, he shoots this guy through the windshield. You see like a red mist that just sprays all over the windshield. So there's a lot of really badass moments, and of course, when he rams the truck at the end, Wes is on top of it, and he's going ah, and then right into Humongous, boom. It's not an explosion, but it is technically an explosion. It's just not an explosion of fire. It's an explosion of car parts just all over the place. Yeah, Mel Gibson is a stone cold badass in The Road Warrior. Yeah, Mad Max himself is definitely an awesome character and an awesome big pro for this film. Now, a lot of the other characters I like too. I like Michael Preston as Papagallo. I thought his performance was really solid. I liked Virginia Hay as Warrior Woman. She kicked ass. It really sucked when she died. Oh man, I thought she and Max are gonna hook up. Of course, that's not what happened. I liked the feral kid. I thought the kid was actually kind of fun. He was kind of a monkey boy, but he's kind of badass too with that boomerang. He took that boomerang and threw it near the beginning of the movie, and it killed Wes's boyfriend, like sticks right into his forehead. I definitely did like that. I like the feral kid. Humongous, played by Kjell Nilsson, this very imposing, huge, hulking figure with this hockey mask. And I always remember this line of dialogue, which I liked when I was a kid. I liked it when I was a kid too, and still like this line now, because I just think it's so absurd, but it's also so really badass. Where Humongous is all like, it's just, I'm trying to remember. You disobeyed me, you puppy. It's like, puppy. No, I just find it funny that he uses the word puppy as a derogatory term. You don't really ever hear that very often, and Humongous definitely did make it work. He's a very he looked like a wrestler. I mean, I don't know if that was the point that George Miller was trying to get across, but he did. He looked like a wrestler. And no wonder the Road Warriors tag team got their inspiration from this movie. No, they were missing was a hockey mask. But yeah, great look, great performance by Kjell Nilsson. All he had to do was be an imposing figure, and he did that and then some. And Vernon Wells is great as Wes. Now, this is this shows you how much Vernon Wells was willing to go deep into this role with the mohawk and everything, and that's it's you look at Vernon Wells and other later roles that he's done in films, and he does nothing like that character. And if you've ever seen him interviews with him, he's nothing like Wes in real life. And but he really did sell that role. He did a great job going deep into the role and becoming that character. And I really like how that character was acrobatic. I don't know if it was Vernon Wells that was doing the gymnastics and all that and the flips and so forth, but either way, I like that touch for Wes. And he's technically Humongous's pet, really. He has him chained up in one scene and lets him loose near the end of the film. But yeah, Vernon Wells is great in this. And I'd probably say his performance as Wes is my second favorite performance he's done in a film next to Bennett from Commando. Because I always remember him as Bennett from Commando. I mean, that's just how I always remember Vernon Wells. I'm not going to shoot you between the eyes, John. I'm going to shoot you between the balls. But Wes is definitely pretty badass, too. And so yeah, I also really like the gyro captain. Very slight, very good sense of humor. He even comes. I like this when he's talking to Max and he's like, I miss a lot of things. Lingerie. That's one thing I really miss. Lingerie. Don't you miss lingerie, Max? And his copter was really cool too. That was a really nice thing to see was the gyrocopter because it was definitely something that was unique. It wasn't a regular helicopter, and it was nice to see that sort of thing in a Mad Max film in this world that they created because and before in Mad Max, if you with the future that they were depicting in the 1979 film, you would have never thought that you could fly around in a helicopter or anything like that. So that was a really nice touch as well. I even like Mad Max's dog. It doesn't have a line of dialogue, but the dog definitely does stand out. I really like the bits of art direction that they did, the look of the compound. Um, I really like these little touches that the film had. Um, Max is eating some dog food. I like that little touch. Gives the rest to his dog. Gyro Captain tries to go after the food. And the Gyro Captain is played by Bruce Spence, who does a really excellent job. And on Wikipedia, they mentioned he has a James Coburn smile, and that's perfect. That's definitely the smile that Spence has as the Gyro Captain. And so Spence is trying to steal the food from the dog, and the dog isn't having any of it. The dog's ready to like attack him, and so I like that. There's things with the dog. It was really too bad when it got shot, when it got killed with an arrow. Um, and I like this scene where Max he finds this little which looks like a remnants of a music box, and you turn the crank the handle and it plays the Happy Birthday song. And I probably will never think of the Happy Birthday song the same way after watching this movie again. And then he gives that to the feral kid who as a gift. So I like that touch as well. I love the score by Brian May. He does it once again, no relation to the guy from Queen. He comes back. His score was pretty decent for Mad Max, but here it's just memorable. And his score is a big reason why the end chase is so thrilling. It's just that score itself gets your blood pumping. It's just that score itself is just so intense. It's just awesome. And speaking of that chase is legendary. That's one huge pro in itself. Really well shot, really well edited. There's plenty of action. There's shotgun fun. There's a lot of crashes, and it's epic. It's an epic chase scene. It's every bit as awesome as a lot of the critics say it is, and a lot of fans feel that the chase is. It is. It's one of the best end chases I've ever seen in a film, and it culminates in just a explosion of carnage and car parts and body parts and just it's awesome. Um, so yeah, I just definitely really did enjoy that chase sequence, and the score of Brian May definitely did help a lot with that. But it was also a really well shot, really well edited chase scene as well. Really exciting, just thrilling, and I love the touch of using the heartbeat. of using the sound of a heartbeat when feral kid is trying to go out and get the shell that's hanging around on the hood of the truck, and Max is like, get the shell, and the kid's slowly walking on top of the on the hood, and you hear this thump 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 thump, and then Wes comes out. Ah! You're like, oh! I was not expect. That was actually a jump scare that actually got me. And I watch a lot of horror films. I should have known because I just hadn't seen the film in a while. So that scene really got me. Like it really just made me jump because it was definitely a really well done sequence. I probably would say it's more likely why it made me jump so much was probably because of the heartbeat noise. I mean, that really adds a lot of suspense to any sequence in a horror film or otherwise. Um, but yeah, it was got me, man. I was just like, ah. I usually do not react to jump scares, but that definitely did get me because I wasn't expecting that because this is an action movie. This isn't really a horror film, but there are some moments where it does get you with these little jump scares. It had a little bit in the beginning as well with this dead body that fell out of a truck. So, and also just really great touches that the film had. Really unique ways to shoot certain sequences. There's one where Max is looking through his binoculars and he's looking at what's going on outside the compound, and with Nathan, who's getting attacked by Humongous warriors, and this woman's getting raped, and it's really awful. And this is where Mad Max realizes how bad the situation is with these marauding warriors who are trying to take over this encampment. And you see a shot through Papagallo's binocular, not released by his what's the word for that? His telescoping lens or something with his Paris telescope, and he sees like the rape, and it's just the way that way it's shot is you see it from like, as if you're looking through a telescope or as if you're looking through the binoculars. And I like that. It's a little touch, but it's something that you easily could not have done. You could have just had him, oh, he's looking at the binoculars, and then you cut to the actual sequence without looking at it from the point of view that Max and the gyro captain are looking at it from. And I like that. And another touch that I liked is after the crash, oh man, after the crash of the V8 Interceptor, which is, oh man, that's so sad. And then it explodes, and I like the way that the shot is situated, where Max is crawling around in the desert, and this is where the gyro captain comes in and saves him. I like how it's shot in this hazy, multiple different dissolves, and makes it look like it's in a haze, which is what Mad Max is in. Max is in a haze at that moment. He's discombobulated. He's probably dealing with some concussion symptoms, and the camera, the way the cinematography is done, makes it look like he's in a haze, and makes you also feel like you're in a haze as well. So it makes you, through the camera work, able to experience the way that Mad Max is feeling. And I really did really enjoy that, those little touches. I love the opening of the film with the narration. It's really well shot with these older footage, and this old footage of sort of like news footage and stuff like that, and black and white. And I love that. I really enjoyed that because there's a really unique and clever way to open the film. It also gave a little bit more of a backstory to this future that I thought was lacking from the last film, from Mad Max, the 1979 film. And there was one point at the end where I thought that it was going to be a con, because I'm like, oh, never was any oil. It was always dust. But then it's not. They just members of Papagallo's family, they just ended up putting the gas in the school bus safe and sound. Which I'm like, that's actually really clever and good, because I was like, oh, don't be some stupid twist. There never was any gas. Great. But it was all for nothing. Mad Max almost died for nothing. No. Even if not necessarily nothing, because he is leading them, this group of people, to a new land. And another thing that got me was the narrator is the Pharaoh kid all grown up, which I thought was actually a nice touch as well. Yeah, I can't. And the last shot is just so badass with the narration, and then the zoom out of Mel Gibson standing in the middle of the road, the way it's shot, the way it looks, the lighting and everything, and then the road warrior. You're like, yeah. I was like, this. It's the perfect way to end the film. This is a badass movie. I agree. Breathtaking, an astonishing action masterpiece. I agree with every word that Guy Flatley had to say. From the Cosmopolitan. Yeah, of all things, the from Cosmo, the critic from Cosmo. Richard Corliss, I agree with him too. Apocalypse, pow, exhilarating entertainment. Um, but anyway, that's all I can think of for the pros. It's quite. I forgot one pro. I'd be remiss to not mention the design of the trucks and the cars and the motorcycles and the look of Humongous's hot rod and even Papagallo's vehicle, which is futuristic looking and sleek and pretty cool. And of course, nice to see the V8 Interceptor again, but you know what happened to the V8 Interceptor, and that leads into a little bit of a con for me, but it's not much. As for cons, what cons? This is the fucking Road Warrior. This movie doesn't have any cons. Uh, if I think about it, there's just a really small thing when it comes to the movie. It's blowing up the V8 Interceptor. I mean, that's one of the most badass cars ever, and to just blow it up, that made me cry a little bit. Um, but that doesn't hurt my enjoyment of the film at all. But if there is one con that I can really get behind, that is the fact that this film still does not, to this day, have a special edition on Blu-ray or on DVD. The original Mad Max had more features when it came out than the Road Warrior. This DVD never had anything on it except a trailer, as you can see. And only recently there's a Blu-ray release that had one commentary track. Or was it a couple? Either way, commentary tracks isn't enough. And for the longest time, the little featurette that had a little bit of look into the making of the film on set, doing the stunts, was on the VHS of The Road Warrior, which is titled Special Edition. But that never showed up on this DVD for some reason. And this is considered by many to be one of the best films of its genre. It's got a huge fan base, and to this day, it's being disrespected on home video for some reason. It's like, where is the feature-length documentary on The Road Warrior? Where is the feature-length documentary in the making of this movie? Where is that? Where is any interviews with the cast and crew about this movie? This is a Mad Max film that got a lot of people into Mad Max. The first film was a cult following, got a cult following through cable, but most people got into the Mad Max, at least in the United States, at least from the people that I know, from this movie. And a lot of people know about this film. A lot of people love this movie, and it's got no documentaries. It's got no features like that. It deserves an hour and a half, 2 hour long documentary. It deserves featurettes on the fans. It deserves more, not less. 2 commentary tracks or 1 commentary track on the Blu-ray is not enough. Warner Brothers, you gave the Batman and Robin more features than you gave the fucking Road Warrior, and that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. That's bullshit. But yeah, that's the main con for me. I could deal with the Turbo Interceptor being blown up because he does. Max, in essence, had to do it because he was gonna die. So it's a way that to save his life, and his interceptor sacrificed itself to save him. But this movie, this badass movie, getting slapped in the face by Warner Brothers on home video with no featurettes, with no behind-the-scenes documentaries, and maybe 1 or 2 commentaries on the Blu-ray. That's not okay. I can't. I really that I don't understand that at all. In fact, it's giving me a headache just thinking about that. So anyway, yeah, that's the biggest con for me. The lack of a special edition on home video. As for the final verdict, I mean, this movie is awesome. This is a badass movie. This is a movie that made me. I'm like, why don't they make movies like this anymore? And I hope Fury Road is going to be like this because I've heard it is. So I'm going to probably enjoy Fury Road too. And I'll be like, finally, somebody made a movie like The Road Warrior again, but it took George Miller, who made The Road Warrior, to make it. But yeah, just great stunts, great action, great characters, great score, a good story. All in all, just a breakneck speed, awesome, enthralling, thrilling action masterpiece that I can't praise enough. And I really don't know what else to say except rate out of 5 stars. And I'd give the Road Warrior or Mad Max 2 or however you want to call it, or Mad Max 2 The Road Warrior. Want to combine both titles? Nothing less than 5 out of 5 stars. 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10. This movie kicks ass. Anyway, thank you for watching my review and retrospective of The Road Warrior, and I will see you guys later. See ya.